Hey everyone, so we're about to dive into something that honestly feels a lot like a magic trick. But it's not magic. It's the very foundation of our entire financial world. And it all starts with one simple question about the money you think you have in your bank account.
Okay, let's just jump right in. I want you to think about your bank balance for a second. You know, those numbers you see on your phone or on an ATM screen. Are they real? Like actually real? Well, the answer is going to surprise you, and frankly, it's pretty wild.
And look, this isn't some wild conspiracy theory. This is a fundamental feature of modern banking. If every single person decided to pull their cash out of the bank at the same time, the whole system would come crashing down. Why? Because the actual physical cash, it just isn't there. So how is that even possible? How can the money not be there? Well, the answer is a system called fractional reserve banking. And it's basically the silent engine behind all the debt and inflation in the world. It's this incredible illusion of wealth we've all just kind of accepted as normal. But trust me, once you see how the trick is done, you will never, ever look at your bank account the same way again.
To really get how this modern illusion works, we've got to go back in time, way back. Picture medieval Europe, a time before digital money, when wealth was something you could hold in your hand. It was physical gold. And this is where the secret art of creating money from literally thin air was first discovered.
So it all started out pretty simply, right? Merchants had all this heavy gold, and they needed a safe place to store it. So they gave it to the local goldsmiths. In return, they got a paper receipt. Easy enough. But pretty soon, people figured out it was way easier to just trade the paper receipts instead of lugging around heavy gold coins. And that's when the goldsmiths had their big aha moment. They noticed that almost nobody ever came to claim their actual gold at the same time. This gave them a very, very clever idea. They started writing out extra receipts for gold they didn't even have, and loaned them out, collecting interest. As long as everyone didn't show up at once asking for their gold, nobody would ever know. And just like that, money was created from nothing. And that right there, that was the moment everything changed. The second that a paper promise was treated as being just as good as the real thing, the idea of money was completely untethered from physical reality. It just became an idea, a promise, an entry in a book. And that, my friends, is the foundation of our entire banking system today. Okay, so how did this clever little trick used by a few goldsmiths become the operating system for entire countries? Well, it's what happens when governments see just how powerful this art is and decide, hey, we can use that to pay for things. And what do governments love to pay for? Wars.
You can see the progression so clearly. It starts with the goldsmiths. Then, in 1694, the Bank of England is created for the specific purpose of lending the king more money than it actually had to fund his wars. And guess who paid the interest on all that phantom money? The taxpayers. Sound familiar? Then, fast forward a bit, and you see central banks popping up to manage the inevitable chaos of bank runs, and really to keep the public believing in the illusion.
And that brings us right up to today. The system has evolved from paper and gold into something way more abstract and, frankly, way more powerful. The basic principle is exactly the same, but the speed and the scale are just staggering. So you've probably heard of the fractional reserve system, right? The idea that banks have to keep, say, 10% of their deposits on hand just in case. Well, that was the old system. What a lot of people don't realize is that in many places, like the United States, that rule has been completely thrown out the window. Yep, you are reading that correctly. 0%. As of March 2020, the official reserve requirement for banks in the US was set to 0. That means they are not legally required to hold any of your money in reserve. Not $1, not 1 cent. Now, this is probably the single most important and most mind-bending part of this whole thing. We're all taught that banks take in our deposits and then lend that money out. That is 100% backward. In our modern system, loans create deposits. When you go get a mortgage, the bank doesn't take money out of a vault. It just types new digital dollars into your account. Poof! It creates the money right there on the spot, backed by nothing more than your promise to pay it back. And here's what that looks like in the real world. Over 90% of all the money in our economy isn't cash printed by the government. Nope, it's digital money, created out of thin air by commercial banks every single time they issue a loan. It's dead. So, a system like this doesn't just exist. It has consequences, very specific, totally unavoidable outcomes that affect every single one of us, whether we realize it or not. So let's talk about the big three. And just to be super clear, These things aren't bugs in the system that need to be fixed. They are features. They're built right into its DNA.
First up, inflation. We all feel it, right? Prices going up. But it's not really that prices are going up. It's that the value of your money is going down. Every time a new loan creates new money, the entire existing pool of money gets diluted. It's like adding a little bit of water to a glass of juice. The total amount of liquid increases, but the juice gets weaker. Every single dollar you save loses a tiny bit of its power.
Second, perpetual debt. Now, think about this for a second. If every dollar is created as a loan, that's the principal amount, where does the money to pay the interest on that loan come from? It doesn't exist yet. It has to be created through, you guessed it, more new loans. This is a mathematical certainty. The system guarantees that there is always more debt owed than there is money in existence to pay it all back. It's a treadmill that can never, ever stop. And third, you get this massive concentration of wealth. So who wins in this game? Well, when all this new money gets created, it flows to the people closest to the spigot. The banks, obviously, who get to collect interest on money they just invented. The wealthy, who own assets like stocks and real estate that get inflated in price by all the new money. And who pays for it? Regular people, wage earners. Their salaries can't keep up, and the money they do have slowly bleeds away its purchasing power.
Okay, so we've seen how the machine is built. We've seen what it produces. Now we come to the most unsettling part of all, your role in this whole illusion and what it really means for your own financial freedom. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. The entire system needs you and me and millions of other people to constantly be in debt. If everyone, overnight, paid off all their mortgages, their car loans, their credit cards, the money supply would literally evaporate. The economy would just stop. We are the fuel. Our debt is the collateral that keeps this whole machine running.
This really forces us to redefine what wealth even is. It's not just the number in your bank account, which we now know is just a digital promise in a system built on debt. Real wealth is tangible. It's land, it's resources, it's your skills. It's anything that holds its value when all the paper and digital promises start to look a little shaky.
Look, the point of all this isn't to make you cynical or paranoid. It's to make you realistic. This is the game we're all playing. It has rules. And yeah, the house has a pretty big advantage. But now you know the rules. You see how the trick works. So the only real question left is, now that you know the game, how are you going to play it to protect yourself and build real, lasting wealth?